Hi, friends. Doc South here, and gee, I'm just waiting to go into work. I have a few minutes, so I'm sitting in the parking lot looking at the smartphone, and I'm going through the smartphone, like I said, and ran into a thing where there's a young man. I won't use his name, but a young man, 100 years old. Yeah, 100 years old. God, love a duck. From I believe he lives down in North Carolina, and he served back during World War II. He served on the battleship North Carolina, which is berthed at Wilmington, I think in the town of Wilmington, North Carolina, in the harbor there. I've been on it. Yeah, I have gone on it. It's now like a museum ship. And you pretty much walk the deck. You can go down below decks, up on the bridge, and I guess check out the boiler room and all that kind of thing. And it's nice. And I think they even have a spot where you can see a movie about the battleship North Carolina during World War II, and I think maybe the Korean conflict. The ship did get, obviously, it got through the war, and I guess the people of North Carolina, I guess, asked the Navy if they were if they if they were just going to scrap the ship, could maybe they get it and make it a museum, a floating museum, to honor our sailors. And I guess the Navy said, yeah, sure. And I've been on it, like I said. Very, very impressive. Oh my gosh. All I can say is those, what were they, 18-inch gun mounts or 16-inch? I don't know. They were big. They were sending a shell that weighed about as much as a car. And I think they could throw it many a mile, and I guess land it, right on your toe if need be. They were they were very impressive shells, and you were your time was up if one was coming your way. The But the North Carolina, yeah, and I know I remember going there and just feeling awful that even though I was in the Navy, I didn't get a chance to serve. Um, I sure would have liked to. I'd still go if they'd let me. What am I now? I'm darn near 80. I honestly I think I could get through Navy boot camp. I'll tell you the truth. I think I could. I'd sure give it the try. But no, back in the day, I enlisted in the Navy during somewhere around 1967. Um, I was taken in. I passed the aptitude test. They said I was. They did. They checked me for knowledge and all. And well, I had a very high IQ. It doesn't mean you're smart, but it means I had a high IQ, and they really wanted me. And they asked. They were very much interested. And I remember them asking me, well, look, we'll get you in. We'll get you a really good job in the service here in the Navy. And if all you got to do is go through this security clearance check. I went through a security clearance check, and in that uh, check, they see if you're possibly communist or what have you, all sorts of different things that you could be that well they wouldn't want you on board. And then they asked me if I had ever taken drugs, and I said, well, yeah, smoked pot, and they didn't say much at that point. But a day or two later, I went. I was going to the recruiter back where I lived, and the recruiter said, "Hey, they don't want you in the service. You're you're not being accepted." I said, "Why?" "Because you smoke pot." I said, "Yeah, in college, I wouldn't want to smoke it in the Navy." Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't on leave or something. I might have thought that way, but I honestly wanted to get in, and I said, "Well, if it takes not having the taken pot and or and I wouldn't refuse to take a blood test. I'd be happy to stay." He said, "No," he says, "it's too late. You're a fraudulent enlistment. You're out." I said, "But I don't want to be out." He says, "Well, you're out." He says, "You can fight it, but it won't do any good. once they make their mind up on something like this, he says, sadly, it's made up. He says, I'm sorry, maybe you can do something else. Well, I felt awful about it, to tell you the truth. And but there wasn't much I could do. For all my being smart in IQ, I was, I guess, dumb in basic life. Get right down to it. My advice would be take it from someone who got kind of nailed by the drug situation. Um, you really want to stay away from the stuff. It's not good for you. In the long run, it wrecks you. And so I'm just saying, probably in one ear and out the other, like it did with me when I was younger. But I honestly meant no harm, but evidently wasn't quite. That isn't how they saw it. And I guess it's their Navy, not mine. So now I hear it's not necessarily so bad to smoke pot and be in the service, but that's what I've heard. I don't know that to be true, but I've heard that. Yeah. So, as the hippies would say, groovy. I'd still go. And honestly, remembering boot camp, I think I could get through it. And I'm 78. I think I could do it. I think. I certainly liked the food, God knows. But in any case, I guess there's not much I can do. But it's kind of sad. So those ships sure were impressive. And I think besides being able to fight real good, they also, I think, did a lot of service on the high seas in many other ways. So, actually, I wanted to be a corpsman. And I did wind up doing that in North Carolina on a rescue squad. And I became a sergeant within the rescue squad and did save a lot of people. So, and I worked my way through the ranks. So I guess I did okay there. And I consider that my service. 3 years of going out when everyone else is going out Saturday nights to go to a party. I was going out to bring in the drunks, the wrecks, and the people that started shooting up the place. So, so I'm more than my share of hot times in the old town tonight, that's for sure. Anyway, I'll see you later. God bless. Doc South signing off. And my opinion, maybe you might want to think drugs, I don't think are so good for you. I don't know if the service cares much about that anymore, but they, truth be known, they won't do you a bit of good. Catch you later. Bye-bye.